Reactive training systems.
What do you fellas think about the need for having a plan?
Let's say what kind of meet you're preparing it for. Is it like a local meet? Is this a regional meet? An international meet? Kind of laying out. eh, you might have more than one goal when it comes to a particular meet. So if it's a local meet, maybe your goal is to increase your PRs. Maybe your goal is to achieve a qualifying standard for the next tier regional or the nationals or something like this. Or maybe you're aiming to try and take a record as well. So sometimes those goals may counter, like, of course, if you have a good meet, usually that helps feed you towards, but perhaps if you're chasing kind of PRs, but if you chase too hard, maybe that makes it harder to kind of build up a total to secure a qualifying total or something like this. So kind of prioritizing in those kind of goals of a particular meet can be an important aspect as well.
Goals will definitely influence plans and choices that you make throughout the day, and being aware of those things can be really helpful. So you don't have any surprises and you're kind of grounded in what's important to you going into the day.
Just having those goals and have clear goals of the intention of the meet. Like, I recently got a new athlete and she's going into a meet with just wanting to have the experience and not so much about hitting PRs or anything like that. Just the experience, going out there, experiencing the meet, and then using that to set herself up for future meets.
I think it's important to acknowledge here in this moment that having goals for a meet doesn't always necessarily mean numbers. There's a lot more that we can have from a goal setting perspective going into a meet, to whether it be 9 for 9 or just going in to gain the experience in that moment and different things of that nature. But not all goals have to be linked to a specific number. And then Peter had another really good point as well, that is a key to having a successful meet within that plan, is being flexible with that plan. I'd imagine, Peter, you've had quite a bit of experience with all your coaching at international level, how important that flexibility of the plan is. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it's kind of paramount because let's just say, like, even at the Worlds this year, we had a very tight battle in with Oprah for the 66. And I think part of the keys why we were able to come on top with that is because, we had that flexibility based into the plan based on how the day was kind of fleshing out. And let's just say some things kind of popped up that would be kind of opportunities for us as well. So we didn't actually, on any of the attempts, push into what would have been his top end kind of range that we were kind of looking at that was potentially there for the day. We were able to kind of play in with those numbers that were kind of, let's say, our B selection numbers, but good numbers in, which put him in a good position for the meet. So kind of based on how the day was unfolding, we were able to kind of play it that way. And of course, those numbers would also be, let's just say, a higher percentage of being a good lift, which is very important for that as well. So kind of having that flexibility to be able to kind of see how things are emerging during the meet as it plays on kind of factors in quite a lot. And I think it allows you to take advantage of opportunities, kind of defend against potentially, pitfalls that might kind of emerge through the day as well. For example, if another lifter misses an attempt, which then that could open up a window if you get yours in. Well, now you put yourself into a nice kind of rosy strong position. And, for that particular one, the fact that, we'd gone 6 for 6 by the time it came through to the subtotal, that put us in a very strong position because none of the other lifters that were directly kind of in the real hunt had gone 6 for 6 by that point. So that was kind of a key point for us, kind of being in that strong position coming into our best event, which was the deadlift then.
Yeah, I think it's important to not be married to the plan as well. Like, you can write down your attempts, your first, second, and thirds, but at the end of the day, you need to make one lift at a time. And if, say, you miss your opener, it's probably the best. Most of the time, it's the best option is to take that opener again, just to save you from bombing out. I totally agree with what Peter said. It's being flexible with attempt selection as well. Like, lifters can miss lifts as well. I've found that, competing at a high level as well is lifts can be missed like seconds, and then you come to that third deadlift and sometimes it's all or nothing. And sometimes you need to put on a little bit more than you planned. Another one I wanted to add is being flexible with the conditions as well. Like, you can have a platform that's completely wrecked. You can have referees that are super strict with the pauses, with bench in particular, certain conditions. And that can cause you to pull things back a little bit. I remember one nationals here, we had a platform that was super slippery. Like everyone was slipping on bench press. And the game day coach at the time, he suggested, well, let's pull back your opening bench, sorry, because everyone's slipping. So that's what we did. We made all 3 bench presses, and the guys that usually have the bigger bench that puts them like pretty well ahead with the subtotal, they were slipping on their second and thirds and they were missing. So yeah, just be adaptable to the conditions and be aware of it.
As well, the logistics of the meet as well could mean that you have to change the game plan based on, similar to what Adam was. We had at the Asian Championships last year, we had again the 66. As it worked out, the session that we were in, there was only 6 lifters in the session, which meant that the turnaround times on everything was going to be extremely fast. And one of the things, so that in itself is going to present a challenge. So that, of course, means that maybe you got to adjust in the warm-up plan because you have a very small window for warm-ups. And of course, between the attempts as well. So the first thing you got to look at is when you see the layout of that, of course, not to be married by, you might be in a situation that if you were going to take 5 warm-ups, well, maybe you got to shave that into 4 to make sure that your timing's coming in so that you're ready for the meet. And that one was, we had actually over in his first squat as well, he got massive cramps for the squat. So again, then after the first one, now made the lift, but is fairly substantially impeded for the next one. So then having to navigate the plan where we just didn't timed out his second attempt so that he would have enough time to kind of recover in and get another squat in by the third attempt as well. So again, if we'd gone up very quickly after those cramps in for the second attempt, most likely that wouldn't have gone well. But by kind of burning that second one, saying, okay, we're going to buy him some time in for the next one. So those little things that pop up kind of in that moment can be very important to just be able to, sometimes you got to go a bit left field on the game plan as well, based on, how things are kind of unfolding there as well.
Yeah. Being able to go left field on stuff like that is beneficial. I had a super heavyweight at a meet one time at a national championship too. And the flight was small and it was going to be fast. And he looked at me and he was telling me as he's warming up, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to lift that fast. Like, I'm going to be wrecked at that pace. Like, I can't do all 3 attempts. And so we got weird with it. We took his opener as a warm up. We started warming up way early. We changed his second to his opener and only did his second and his third. And like, that was risky for sure, but it was the adjustment we made. And it was also like, when you think about the plan, right? Like, what's important to the lifter? What goals do you have? That plan and that adjustment, instead of taking all 3 and only doing the 2, fed into his plan and his goals for the meet. And that was the other reason why we decided to do that, was what are the goals? What's important to this lifter at this meet? And does this adjustment of the plan meet that criteria to support those goals? Yes. Okay, let's get weird.
Hey, if Ronnie Coleman was a powerlifting coach, he might have said, everybody wants to build custom training programs, but nobody's got a process for how to do it on the regular. But we do. You see, most coaches rely on trial and error, and that's fine if that's your jam, but we wanted a coherent process. Way back in 2015, when I had already been coaching for over a decade, I finally had learned enough from enough sources that I was able to put the pieces together into one coherent process. We call it emerging strategies. The bulk of our 16 world record-setting powerlifters set those records using an emerging strategies program. We talk about emerging strategies a ton on this podcast and everywhere. If you ever want a single, thorough explanation for how to implement the emerging strategies process, well, that's the Emerging Strategies course. The Emerging Strategies course includes 8 modules. That's almost 24 hours of video instruction covering everything. We teach fundamental concepts and basics all the way through integrated examples and case studies. You can watch it at your own pace, as fast or as slow as you want. Oh, and you know the RTS community, our private community that offers you just a stupendous amount of value all on its own? Well, if you enroll, in the Emerging Strategies course, you get 6 months of that community membership for free. If you have any questions about some concept, you just post it in the network or jump on a live office hour call with one of our RTS coaches and you get your answer. If you'd like to enroll or just learn more, to include seeing a full lesson list, all you have to do is go to reactivetrainingsystems.com and click on courses in the main menu. You're going to love it.
The next point of having a handler, because a lot of this stuff can be pretty heavy to sit there and try and navigate and think and crunch numbers, and having a handler can be really important in that regards if you're able to help support and facilitate a lot of those changes. And I mean, Peter, that's what you've been doing a lot at a lot of different levels, and I'm sure you can speak on how important that is for a lifter to have somebody like you in their corner when they're competing and fighting for placing.
Yeah, so it kind of allows the athlete as well to focus on that execution, which at the end of the day is what's going to bring home the results in there. And, especially in a competitive kind of event when there could be 1, 2, 3, a number of other lifters that you're battling in, it's a lot of energy that can be spent, kind of trying to crunch those numbers, those scenarios. How was their attempts, the competitors' attempts looking? Were they looking good? What kind of range do they have? Like all those kind of things. And of course, it's energy and kind of that mental energy. Like, let's just say, even after you've handled a very close kind of battle like that, you're exhausted. Whereas even though you're not even lifting, so to have that kind of energy expenditure on top of the actual lifting of it can be quite taxing as well. And of course, maybe that some lifters would like to be aware of what's happening with the scoreboard. Some prefer to not know what's going on there at all. So it kind of depends on the lifter a little bit there too. But in terms of kind of knowing where they're sitting, that's one thing. But actually kind of crunching numbers and scenarios and so on and so forth, it's very valuable to be able to kind of trust somebody to be like, okay, just make sure the right attempt is on the bar for what we need in terms of the position here. So the lifter then kind of frees up their scope, we'll say, just to kind of focus on the execution and kind of staying in the zone through the meet as well.
Definitely. The first 9-for-9 meet that I ever had in my career was in the national championships in 2014. And it was really cool. It was the first meet for me that I was finally able to stop looking at the scoreboard and what other people were doing. And I was truly, genuinely, totally focused on my process of execution. And that was like, to go 9-for-9 in that meet and have that mentality and that focus was definitely a big, like, oh, why did it take me so long to get into this space in this zone? That makes so much sense. What was I thinking? One of those things that we talked about that's a key to a successful meet is taking it one lift at a time. And that's a lot of what's happening in a moment like that. It's just taking it one lift at a time, allowing the moment to be what it is. Like, there's things that go wrong in a meet, and whether it be the equipment and our feet sliding on bench press, or we're getting some cramps or something like that, it doesn't help us to complain about it. We have to just find the way to move forward. And I think a lot of that, the idea of taking it one lift at a time, is really beneficial to that and keeps us kind of focused forward rather than thinking about what the problem is. We're trying to find solutions to move forward with it more than anything else.
I think it's also good in the execution point is you need to go out there and hit that opener with great intention, rather than I'm just going to go in and just lift this and then go to my second, lift it. Then I'll do, smash that third that I want to, really want to achieve, rather than, okay, I got my opener, I need to go in there, I need to remember my commands, I need to execute well, and then get that on the board, and then, okay, what's next? Let's focus on that.
Hey, let me tell you something that I know about you. Your lifting is important to you. It's probably one of your biggest priorities. And for people like us, nothing compares to the feeling that you get when you set a new PR. That feeling of being the best that you've ever been, of doing something that you've never done before. This is what we're all after, and it's also what RTS specializes in. Getting you the absolute best program possible so that you can hit new PRs and reach your goals. We call it radically individualized training, and we're really good at it. Whether we need to account for busy schedules or equipment limitations, or precisely turn the dials and get the details of the program just right, we have the tools and the experience to guide your lifting to the next level. To us, coaching is all about leadership, relationship, and creative problem solving. A coach should be poised to help you make tough decisions about training and competing so that you can continually grow in your development. And of course, a coach should be a first-rate problem solver, especially when it comes to your training, technique, and strategy. Now, all this has to be built off of a really strong, professional coaching relationship that emphasizes trust and respect. Additionally, RTS coaches are not on an island. We have a strong network of professionals to reach out to, so if you find yourself in need of some specific expertise, say in the realm of nutrition or injury management or sports psychology, there's a deep expertise available there too. For more information, go to store.reactivetrainingsystems.com and click on coaching. That's store.reactivetrainingsystems.com, then click on coaching. Hope to see you on the team soon.